Friday Night Fights is on. Oh, you want something funny, do you? Always another request with these ones. Never satisfied. Hi, Be Conquered. How are you? Friday night. What do y'all want me to do? Subscribe to earn drops. No, thank you. No, thank you, Duo. All right, everybody. It's time for Friday Night Fights. Be Conquered is ready. AC Secret is ready. I'm only like 16 or so. Is only like mostly ready. Hey, PLNR. Welcome to you. Let's open up the Dojo Club over here. For the folks on YouTube who don't have access to the automatic commands, ChessDojo.club. This is your way to find your way to the upcoming events. Let's copy the link. Let's close the top section. See if we got any lower rated players tonight. PNR waiting for the opponents. 300 rapid elo and rage quit. Make a new account. Wow. Sounds like a recipe for sadness and misery. It's a little bit loud in here tonight for the next 20, 30 minutes as we seek to put the children down and they resist to their utmost. And then eventually we'll get into like calm, thoughtful chess discussions. 20 times in 2 years. Jeez Louise, man. Alvin Cruz. Good to see you, Alvin. What does our starting soon page look like right now? Live coverage of Rapid Arenas. Pretty close. Pretty close. And we've got this. Does that work? Well, I can't hear it. Hopefully you can. Are my kids into chess? No. Check out Joe. He's a Reddit bro. Likes to edit posts and he starts to gloat when he gets the most votes or likes. Yeah, he's really hyped, really psyched, cause the crowd is really tight and the work is really light. His training plan is the first thing your eyes see, cause he got more. All right, I stopped it. Just testing out my buttons, you know. Way too loud, you can't hear me. Check out Joe. He's a Reddit bro. Likes to edit posts and he starts to gloat when he gets the most upvotes or likes. Yeah, he's really hyped, really psyched, cause the clout is really tight and the work is really light. His training plan is the first thing your eye sees. He's got more follows than my boy Arageisy. Opinions on Magnus, Hans, and Karyakin. Who cheated who? Which engine to be packing? He got. Click the wrong video, Brozinger. Ça va? Ball? There's one there. Hockey chess dude. Pushing towards midnight. Pushing towards midnight. He got blocked by Short, ignored by Dvork, but he can't be wrong. He scored a like from Chuang. He's got lightning attacks on what? Start a music career? I've started one, just not a very good one, math nerd. He's got lightning attacks on GM blunders and gas to not over the board. It's only via the chat. Still is. Whoa! Crack. Okay. So, tournament starts in 15 minutes for anyone who wants to play. What should I do to drum up opponents for you? Starting a music career is difficult, but you know. Be conquered. That is because I am not French nor Canadian. No, 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 no. I am the American like you. Just like you. I am born in Berkeley, California. Okay, I will help you all find opponents by hitting up social media. I'm going to post a reel on Twitter letting them know that our tournament's starting. Gary Kasparov says that Angela Merkel is outrageous. Outrageous. Chess Dojo's Friday night fights are a vibe. Do you think that'll get people to join our tournament? Chess Dojo's Friday night fights are a total vibe. Lafamamao. All right, let me give him a link. I should tag Emil Sutovsky. Be like, Emil, while you're busy organizing the grand knockout thingamajig, check out some real tournaments, bruh. All levels, welcome and loved. How do you choose a main line to play? You finally picked an opening repertoire. Sounds like you're done. If you finally did it, don't do it again. Let's say you did it, it's good enough. Once you drop 300 ELO in one game, it'll be time for a new repertoire. Thirsty. Less thirsty. Whew. Ooh, math are tripling your rating. That's pretty good. Indeed, Charlie. Usually we do. All D4 players love to see D5, with 0 exceptions. That's a good point, B Conquered. Although I will say, when I was very early in my career and I wasn't much of a D4 player, I would play D4 specifically against King's Indian players. Because I thought that's a trash opening. I also, okay, and here I was really wrong. I also thought that the Grunfeld was a trash opening, so I would play D4 against King's Indian and Grunfeld players on purpose. Yeah. Everybody has to be wrong about something early on, right? I mean, I was really wrong about some other things too. I remember that originally I thought you could move every single one of your pawns to the 4th rank, and then you'd have like impregnable control of the entire 5th rank. That was one of my early chess strategies. Turned out it wasn't that simple. But that was when I was more like, 200. And when I was 2200, I would play D4 against King's Indian and Grunfeld players. I thought, that feeble Grunfeld. Does anybody want to join the under 1600 tournament today? There's 10 minutes left to join. And we've got PLNR waiting all alone for some opposition. A3, B4, C3, D4. Yeah, exactly, Carlos. That was my second idea. I thought there were like, I basically thought there's two options. You know, some people think it's E4 or D4. I thought it was every pawn to the fourth or every pawn in a one-colored zigzag. Whoops. Oh, heaven forbid we put one pawn on a light square, right? Zigzag like this, maybe B4 too. And I would do it on the dark squares or the light squares. Oof. I bet it's terrible out there, huh?
I mean, I can't get Lily to leave.
Oh. Tell her
Did you
that...
allow her to have popsicles? Because that slowed her down significantly.
Yeah, tell her that she has 5 minutes to go or she can't go tonight and she'll do it another week. Or put whatever like limit on it you want like that. You can leave it for me at midnight.
But I tried to leave it for you yesterday when you were talking to your brother Jacob and you said you'd do it and you didn't. And I had to do it in the morning. So I'm just going to do
I didn't say I would do it yesterday. We didn't talk about it. I'll do it today.
I asked you to nicely.
Nope. Yeah, 1600 plus has enough players, so we will have a tournament for sure. You know what we should do while waiting for the tournament? We've got just enough time for me to play one game. That will be either entertaining or tragic. Or both. Dvoretsky's favorite. Perhaps I will compose a new tragic comedy here. Whew. Scotty Poo in the place to be. It's me versus Ken.
Almost! Mom won't let me use the sink. What are you doing, David? No, look, he's busy. No, girl, come over here. Zepper, Zepper. He's screaming. Don't talk, because everyone will hear you. Okay, and he put my fingers back and I already have a backpack. Right, so can you do that?
Ooh la la. That move does not look good, monsieur. That move looked very bad. Do, 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 do. Hello. How are you? Very good. Thank you. Other rooks coming to c8. How is that possible? There should be no resistance. My opponents used 5 seconds on an entire game. There's like no moves I could ever do though to not have the advantage here. Like no matter what I ever do this game, my position will be much better.
Okay, put it in. Okay, let's go, let's go, let's go. Dad, we're going, Mom, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Might be time for something a little more complicated. Oh, I blundered rook queen d8? No, I've got queen e6. Okay. Whew! At least my position's good, Slippery Mike. It just makes it all the more tragic when I blunder due to the crazy noise. I guess queen a7 was a good simple move as well, right? But now it's time to unload. Boom! Taste me! Jesse Kraai would say, taste me! Oui, Lupin. Ok, je peux pas le faire en ce moment. Excuse-moi, je vais perdre à temps ici. Je joue à un jeu très important. J'essaie d'être le champion. Pas le champignon, ok? Le champion. Is there something even better? Queen F5, Knight F6? There's nothing better than this. I know, I'm hearing a double 2 Stigma, but I will flag if I go looking for the other tab. Now we'll find out. How are the guys' endgame skills? So far, so bueno. Yes! One last coconut to rule them all. Under 1,600 has enough players? That's great. That's great. Whew. That game was so easy. It was all just one stylish move and then the collapse, right? But it was one sweet move. I mean, given that I was distracted, this is a nice little move here, right? Rook C7. Just a little positional touch. Just a little touch. Mais oui, mais oui. Petite touche. Petite touche. And after this, you know, no more black. Game is over. Hey, cats play chess very well. Welcome in. Welcome in. All right, we'll just close that game without analyzing it. We'll assume that I played it perfectly by the standards of somebody who was hardly thinking about the game as he played it. All right, let's check the under 1,600 section. Alvin assures me it's in good shape, but we'll just check. We'll just check. Once we've got at least 4 players in each tournament, then the tournaments will hold, and y'all can join whenever you want to. You know, early, late, whatever. Early, late, whatever. Anyway, folks who come in later will be able to join. So thank you to everybody who got these tournaments started here. We'll have games in about 2 minutes. And I will be doing commentary momentarily. Crunchy, crunchy, crunchy. There's some links for you. Have you ever played in a Chess Dojo tournament before? You've got a nice gi. You look like somebody who would have. Yeah. Steve Nash was pretty good. You joined on Wednesday. Woo! Okay. So you'll probably also still have to join this club here. Let me send you a link. On chess.com, this is the club. Chess.com/club/chessdojo. You join the club to be able to join our tournaments, and then, you know, you can see the direct links to the tournaments here or in the Twitch chat. Yeah. You said 90%? I thought it was 100%. Oh, on your very first day, you played that whole arena. I played that too, Crunchy. It was fun. Although I don't normally play 3-0, so it was also horrible. But also fun. Oui, c'est grave, MDR. You got 0 wins. Oh, that's really tough. That's true. 90% is Steve Nash's accuracy. Well, you know, me and Steve Nash. Rather similar careers. Wow, now the under 1600 is huge. Awesome. You're in just in time. It's okay. Actually, the cool thing, Crunchy, is you can join anytime. Once the tournament kicks off, anyone can come in later and still get a game. So it's cool. But games are starting now. So for everybody who's playing, please silence your stream while you play. This will all be recorded so you can go back later and see my analysis of your game. You know? So I'm going to start opening up some of these games. But yeah, while you're playing, don't listen to the stream. Dakota versus Gustafsson. The diagonal against the majestic waterfall. Lovely. We've got really close pairings by rating because we actually got a bunch of people in here at the end. Beautiful pairings. Scrytop and Sleepy Dreamer. All right, I already clicked on that one. And then Hermats versus Speyer. This is maybe like an exchange Caro, I would guess. I've been seeing quite a bit of that. It would be excellent training, Dabo. I'm going to do it, in fact. Well, I haven't done it yet, so I don't know for sure that it would be excellent training, but in theory, I think it will be, and then I think I'll be right about it being good training. I have heard of the Comet Open, yeah. It's 3+0, so it's not of any interest to me. But for those who like playing 3-minute Blitz online, go for it, right? So yeah, so exchange Carl Khan. Black gets the bishop out here, probably planning to play e6 at some point and have this as their central pawn structure. 3 pawns defending each other like that. So getting the bishop out first before playing e6 is often a priority in this opening. Hopefully you'll be able to rejoin AC Secret. Both tournaments have held, so I hope you'll be able to get it back in. Maybe you were in both at once and it wanted you to only be in one. I'm not sure. Although I think you can be in more than one tournament at once. I'm not sure, but I think you can. Today I had a friend come over and we looked at a game from their most recent chess tournament. And so it's very rare, and I don't have an extra webcam to show you this, but I've got my chessboard beside me today. And so I have a rare and pleasant opportunity that while I do this chess broadcast, I can actually twirl chess pieces, like actual pieces, in my fingers. Which is going to be really nice. You think there will be a lot of cheaters, Math Nerd, because of the big prize fund? The power of wielding the bishops, yeah. Maybe I'll follow along with this excellent game on my actual chessboard here. Oh, man. I think if I could figure out how to set up my e-board, and a big step there would be if I had an office, like if I had a desk where I could set up the e-board and then know that I wouldn't have to pack it away every day and pack it in and pack it out. I think I could stream a lot more because I wouldn't have to look at my screen all the time and this board here with the white and the green and the glare. I would love to just do everything with some real chess pieces, man. Yes, Sweet Bell Pepper. The last time I saw Spear play was not that long ago. It was last Sunday in our Sunday Rapid tournaments. Yeah. Problem is I'm better at twirling pieces with my right hand and at using my right hand for the mouse. So maybe I have to get good at twirling with my left hand. Maybe that's the point of today. Does Untitled Tuesday have prizes? Not that I know of, Landon. Okay, let's talk about this position a little bit. White has brought out the bishop here opposite Black's knight, just like Black used their bishop to stop this knight. The difference is Black wanted to get rid of this bishop because of this pawn structure. White's bishop is actually very complementary to their pawn structure, so it's a slightly more valuable bishop for White. If I were White, therefore, I would hold on to this piece. I would just have it on d3, and from there it can see both sides of the board, which is a beautiful thing for any chess piece. The bishop might point out that no knight has ever done that, but for a bishop or a queen, beautiful to have that kind of a view. So, yeah, I think this is a beautiful piece for White in this pawn structure, and would be happy to keep it if it were my bishop. All right, Spear continues development with the knight. A3 looked like a bad square for the knight, so this makes sense, but it gets in the way of the bishop, so there has to be like a two-step plan involved here, right? Like White's going to need to find squares for both of these pieces somehow. Another option would have been maybe to bring this bishop out first and then bring the knight here. I don't know, maybe that could make sense too. But we start with knight d2, so let's see what she does next with that. Knight, meanwhile, Hermatz wants to know what the bishop's doing. Like, are you going to buy anything, or are you just loitering? Right? The little pawn keeper asks the bishop. And like me, Spear decides that's a good bishop. It's not for sale. Brings it back. It did turn out to be a loss of a tempo, Math Nerd. That's correct. Let me maybe bounce between a second board, PLNR. This is actually the similar pawn structure, but with White being Black and Black being White, so to speak. You see, like if you imagine Fougry as being Black in that other game, the bishop came out to maybe trade, and then the pawn came forward. Is it okay to lose a tempo if you're forcing your opponent to leave theory? It depends on your definition of okay, Sweet Bell Pepper. In general, you should not lose tempi. Let me see if I can just do a little 2-minute assist here at home, okay, folks? Just hang in there. This looks like an interesting position.
You couldn't have timed him. I asked you to time him.
At the time, I wasn't able to.
I'm upset though because I asked him. He didn't respond to us. You need to say goodnight to her. turn off all the lights. It's not as stimulating.
Sorry, I'm just eager to go fast.
No, but like, I know you needed to start that, but it's really a challenge.
I know it is. I'm very aware. I'm sorry.
I think if I had known that you were not going to get to do anything, I would have said that they shouldn't come over. And that I would just have to walk Lizzie over there in an hour. Because it was too hard.
Because she needed to gather stuff.
Yeah. And she needed help gathering stuff, which required 100% of my attention. As Zelly needed 100% of my attention, and Lupin did.
Okay. So this bishop comes here as well, potentially trading for the knight. I don't know if anyone really wants to trade for the knights or if they want to keep their bishops. The position doesn't drastically need the bishop, so it's possible to trade them for knights. I love a bishop pair, but you could trade for the knight if you wanted to, or you could keep your bishop pair. It could go either way. I think Gefilte Fish is so right. If you play logical and principled moves, you will be in theory without knowing it, guys. That's right. You don't need to know opening theory. Just play correct moves, and you will be in theory. Okay. Woo! Leslie! He's seconds away from touchdown. There's H3. Looking for the trade. I think if I were black, I would come around this way because this bishop is really good. I would love to trade that bishop if I could as black. But honestly, black could do anything. It's not bad to take here. It's not bad to retreat. So it's just not a very critical move. It's kind of one of those moves that's just your taste or your preference, you know? You develop your chess ideas, your chess preference. Yes, Be Conquered. The 600 plus is intended to be 90 plus 30. Wait.
Would you please refold all this and then put it away?
Sure.
That was hours of my time.
I already said sure.
Thank you.
Hi, Cross. Oh, look at that. PLNR does a little reflection and does play my preference here. Now, what might I like to do if I were in Fowgree's boots here? From the white side. I mean, all the minor pieces are on good squares for both players. Possible exception, the knight on c6 for PLNR. Certainly for white, all these pieces are on good squares. So, like, the next step is what are we doing with these guys, right? So that's kind of the question is where could the rooks get employed, right? It's time to transition into the middle game. They've kind of finished the opening here. And now we want a middle game. Oh, hey, Night Owl. Thanks for joining us. So, white already has one file without a pawn on it over here. So that you could play rook c1. Depends exactly what kind of future you see for it, but could make sense. I guess one plan could be rook c1, knight here, maybe. Bring the knight forward, supported by the rook, put some pressure on black's pawns a little bit, maybe. It's another option. White plays rook e1. If they really want to use this rook, then this move might be associated with playing e4 at some point to trade this pawn and open up the rook. Let's see, Black's played rook e8, so kind of countering that same file with the influence of that rook. So, I guess white to play here. So folks who aren't playing today, how are you doing? How's your day? What brings you here to watch a little bit of chess at night? What's that?
Wants you to sleep with her. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. I'm planning to. I told her I would need to do a little work first.
Hey, come on, Zadie. Come on, Papa. Let's go for a walk.
You came for me, Dabo? Oh. Anybody here who's watching the tournament tonight already played any chess earlier today? Is there anybody who's already got their game on earlier? Now you're basking in the afterglow. You got some bullet in? You played at Bryant Park, yeah. I, unfortunately, Math Nerd, also played some bullet today. I had a very short amount of time free, and I didn't know if it was enough time to play a blitz game or not. Right, because somebody was going to show up any minute. So I played a bullet game. It went well. I played another bullet game. It went well. Then I played 10 bullet games, which went badly. But I was so excited about how the first two went well that I just kept playing them. I was just waiting. I wish I'd played one blitz game instead. But I couldn't really know. That's the thing when you don't have much time. I'm sure I could have done something better with the not much time I had. So Stamen is saying maybe we could bring this knight over to f4. But the logical path to do that would be through here, right? And then you give black this option. And I'm not sure how we feel about doing that to our king side, right? I thought of the same question, Stamen, because I thought of this move queen b3, trying to attack these two pawns. You see, I could play bishop f6, so I'm kind of double attacking. In fact, I could maybe trade and then play queen b3, and that looks like an official double attack, right? But then I was worried about bishop f3. I didn't know if I should allow that or not. Oh, hey, Cash, thank you so much for the raid. Sounds like you've had like a pretty long session there. Hopefully everything's going well. Hey, Kawaii, Kit Kat, welcome in, welcome in. First time Raider chat. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but it sounds pretty exciting. So welcome to the Dojo stream for perhaps your first time, or maybe just the first time you got here with Cash. This is our weekly Friday night tournament, currently named Friday Night Fights. This was definitely plausible because White's kind of going to win a pawn, aren't they? Oh, you know, similar question actually, Math Nerd. We could do something similar here. You could trade, then play g4. Bishop here. Trade it. Black takes one way or the other. We don't necessarily know which way. And then again, queen b3, winning a pawn. That actually looks pretty good for white. I'm not exactly seeing, you know, how black makes up for losing a pawn. I don't know if Fowgry considered this queen b3 move or not. Black just plays queen d6 as b conquered. I think b conquered's thinking I might grab the wrong pawn here and get trapped, but I thought of this too, b conquered, queen d7 or queen d6. It doesn't defend the central pawn. So if I'm given my choice, you know, I'll do that. Knight e7, that does defend this pawn. And then queen a6, sorry, queen b7. I always get ahead of myself and say the next move in the variation right now. I'm sure if I go to a tournament, I'll play the third move in my variation instead of the second move at some point. So black can get back a pawn, but give another pawn. This, at least, it's an active rook, and there's pieces on the board. However, if white gets really greedy, oh my gosh, math nerd, this might be too much, but if white could get this greedy, then the rook on b2 would not be enough. Yeah, get that rest, Cash. Get that rest like a champion. All right, so I'm kind of suspecting Courtney, you're coming in here. I'm not listening to your stream. I just want to tell you that when I play against the Caro-Kann, I feel so bad. I can't wait half an hour or an hour to tell you how bad I feel. You know? Has anyone ever seen the skit with Colgate toothpaste, in which a disgruntled customer calls them up and says, I tried your Colgate toothpaste and it made me feel like a piece of, well, exactly what Courtney said about the Caro-Kann. That's what Courtney reminds me of. I tried your Caro-Kann and it made me feel like a piece of beep. Okay, so that was an interesting option for Fowgry. Let's see what Fowgry chose. So after rook e1, rook e8, Fowgry played e4. Okay. So the consistent move, we guessed really here correctly what the point of rook e1 was. It was to push in the center. And that's just explosive, right? Now, I mean, there's pieces that can attack and defend here. There's this pawn, which black could try to grab, depending on whether this knight can move. Black traded. White traded. Black traded. What? White didn't take back? Hello, Alexander. Well, things were very complicated here, but why? But how did that happen? Presumably white needs to keep trading these pieces, and it is a bit complicated because this piece is now hanging, right? When black moves this knight out of the way, the bishop attacks it. So white has to see that this bishop's hanging, and they actually do have to play a move other than recapturing, because simple recapturing, black will win a piece over here. So white was in need of this fancy move, trading here, hitting the queen. Then black probably recaptures, and if they do, now we can take on e4 with rook or bishop, and we keep equal pieces like this. A little bit tricky to see and to find, but you know, I would have really, I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if somebody recaptured on e4 and dropped this bishop, not noticing that knight e4 caused the hidden attack, or not seeing how to get out of the series of captures. But not capturing any piece is sure to leave white down a piece here. Yeah, working late, Alexander. I sympathize with you. If only your job were doing Friday night fights, maybe things would be a little chiller for you. But much as I love Friday night fights, there are nights where around like 11 o'clock or so I'm really tired. 11 o'clock on a Friday, and I start to feel really tired and think like, oh man, wouldn't it be nice if Friday night fights were somehow, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. and then I weren't up till midnight. But lots of tough choices to make in life when there's so many good things to do, right? Spend time with your kids, read a book, play some chess, talk about chess. Lots of good choices. Get some sleep. I am diligently working on my piece twirling with my left hand. Okay, we got a move from PLNR. I mean, it should be capturing a piece would be best, I think. And a piece gets captured. That should put black well ahead here. Yeah, it's a little tricky for me to balance the event side of Chess Dojo because I want to run our tournaments when people can play in them. But I also want to run the tournaments when I can comment on them. But I'm available to comment on them when my kids aren't there, when they're in bed or whatever. And it gets pretty late on Friday. Landon, there's no other tournaments that I host like regularly here. In terms of commenting and so forth, but there are some regular classical tournaments organized by Chess Dojo that I could maybe show you here. So on the Chess Dojo website, there's this menu for tournaments, and there's the round robin and the open classical. These are two tournaments that are both played at a classical time control that are continually starting and restarting, but they're kind of, the schedule is you get an opponent for the week and you're supposed to figure out a time to play them sometime during that week. So each week you play, let's say, one round of your tournament. So if you like playing classical chess, that's a very, very good resource for getting high quality classical chess games without leaving your home, online, where you can then also talk about the game with your opponent because it's the dojo. You'll probably find somebody who wants to talk about it with you. Yeah, Be Conquered, you've only been with us like 3 weeks or so. There's a lot going on in the dojo. There was no way you could know about everything in just a couple weeks. I don't know about everything, and I've been in the dojo for 5 years. 5.5 years. All right. White gets a pawn back, but by my count, black has 3 minor pieces against 1. So black is in very good shape here. Knight's hanging. Have to do something about that. Let's pop over to the other game in the same structure for a moment, right? Hermats and Spear. Let's see how a few moves. Oh, it looks like they did a super fancy trade at some point here. Looking forward to it. Okay, so remember we saw this position. We said we have to see how this knight and bishop are going to sort out for white. So the rook moves, then the knight twirls and comes around, and knight g6, good. Bishop g5, and so white's finished development. Nice. And now black goes for the trade here. White could take with pawn or queen. They took with queen. And look at this fancy move. We got a very, very fancy 1,000 rated player on our hands here. Hermats. opening up the attack on their own queen to put a new attack on white's queen. And Hermatz had given up the full bishop pair up to this point, but this move is going to ensure knocking out part of that bishop pair. White takes the queen, black takes the queen, white takes the knight. If they save this bishop, black's going to take that bishop, and it'll be even worse. Good night, Charlie. Nothing wrong with succumbing to sleep. It's one of the best things to succumb to. Okay, so we get this endgame. Bishop versus knight. I would favor the bishop slightly over the knight, but then you look at the pawn structure, and I would favor black's pawn structure a little bit, right? So who's really better between those two factors? Hard to say. I would guess it's pretty close. Interesting, this very first move white plays in the endgame, h4, looking to bother that knight. If I were black, I would try and think about, do I have a dream square for my knight? Knights are often dependent on that kind of thinking. You know, really finding their best spot. Okay, here's like one plan I would think of, and I apologize in advance, Hermatz and Spear, this is really some like super professional kind of thing. This is a master level maneuver. But I would think maybe the best square for my knight is here. And it may not seem like I can get my knight there or support it there. I could eventually play f5 though, and I could support it. So first I want to bring my knight somewhere where it's ready to go to e4. So I'm thinking knight e7, knight c8, knight d6. And then once the knight's here, if white stops knight e4 by putting like a bishop and a rook covering that square, I'll try to engineer f5 and then knight e4. And if at some point then they ever trade my knight, I'll maybe keep a slightly better structure than white, but have traded my knight for the bishop. Although, will my pawn structure really be that much better than white's? Maybe not that much. Maybe it doesn't even, maybe this whole fancy thing doesn't even matter, you know? But d6 is, like, it was secret, but it is kind of the best square for the knight in this structure, almost always. I still think of that as being sort of a secret, because I played this what Alexander's calling the Carlsbad structure. I played this Queen's Gambit exchange pawn structure as a master for probably 10 years without ever knowing that d6 was a good square for the knight. I never knew it. Then eventually I saw a game of Casa Corley's annotated by Casa Corley, and Casa mentioned it, and then I was like, oh, wow. And since then I've been using it, and yeah, it's a very good square. Okay, so Hermatz grabbed space immédiatement with this pawn. Knight gets kicked around, and rook comes to f1. So maybe white's thinking of sort of challenging that pawn and fighting it, or maybe white just wants space to bring this rook out, because, see, in a sense, this rook was blocking the other one in. You can also play a move like c4, mixing up the structure, but kind of breaking open some space for your bishop to show the value of your bishop. I didn't see it, Alexander. Okay, gefilte fish. The answer, I think, is that if you put your knight on d6, your minority attack will be much better than if your knight's on g6. So if you start a minority attack with your knight on g6, and this bishop is eyeing the b5 and a6 diagonal, it's going to be very, very hard / impossible to achieve a good minority attack over here. Not only will you be in the minority as far as pawns, but you'll actually be in the minority as far as pieces. Does that make sense? Like, it's one thing to try and put pressure on your opponent's pawn, their extra pawn, if it's backwards and your pieces are well placed. But if you got one less piece than your opponent in the area, you're just going to get destroyed. So it's a prerequisite for a minority attack of the pawns for black to have enough strength of pieces on the queen side slash, queen side adjacent in the center. Well-placed central pieces can count too. And, Alex Sue was actually saying, I'll read his comment to you, Gefilte Fish, because it's pretty good. Alexander said, I would put the knight on d6 to tickle white's bishop about if it wants to cover e4 or c4. You see what I mean? He's saying, like, is the bishop ready to trade me on either of those squares? Is it ready, right? So I get the knight to d6, and white's like, uh-oh, is black going knight e4, knight c4, maybe even knight f5, attacking these pawns? So he gets the knight to d6, and white has to worry about the knight's hops. And then maybe do the b5, b4 stuff he's saying, right? And he knows that his knight is helping him to do it. Okay, rook f6, the rook comes up, defends these pawns. I mean, it's very unlikely that her mats will think of playing knight c8, right? They're rated 1,000, not 2,000. It may look like it's just a step away, but, normally people are looking forward with their pieces. That's cool, Alexander. Thanks for the rec. I'll probably go look at it at some point. Is the Caro-Kann good? Yeah, it's pretty good, Dabo. Should it be canned? Canned for exporting or canned like canceled? It should not be canceled. We have few enough openings as it is, right? We have to try and let all the openings live together happily. There it is. Okay, so I guessed right what Spear was up to. G4, the rook f1 move was to engage here with the g-pawn and trade. And, the truth is, even if they're rated 1,000, if they sit and think about their moves, why can't they play amazing games, right? Anyone can do it. That's what we see every Friday. So, maybe Hermat could find knight c8, d6. Well, now that white's already engaged on f5, it's kind of too late to move the knight away, right? The knight's now needed to support this point. But, Hermat's, maybe you could find knight c8, knight d6, in this position or in similar positions in the future. Why not? I mean, yeah. I mean, first of all, neither player has hung a single tactic this entire game through the entire opening and middle game phases. So they should definitely be over 1,200. And that means they're allowed to start working on, intricate strategic stuff. Good point, Gefilte Fish. Someone needs to develop the average height variation of the advanced Caro. That's one of the best chess jokes I've heard. Hey, Hydra Peaker. We kicked it off with like some of the lower rated matchups that we've got here. But this one here is really impressing us as a classic battle between bishop and knight, and the players are, being thoughtful, no errors. So it's a pretty cool game so far. The other game we were watching, one of the players lost a piece, and so This game over here, PLNR was way ahead last we looked. Let's see if anything has changed. Bishop E4 was played here. PLNR played Queen D6. So does White have any way to claw back these pieces? I mean, there's Queen A8, but that doesn't help too much. Exactly, Alexander. Yeah. Because you already have the tall and short variations, so really good. Really good. You got to be a chess player to love that joke, but I love it. So this one, I mean, looks very, very good for PLNR with the extra pieces. I mean, it is worrisome that this is undefended, this is undefended, this is on the diagonal, there's still back rank mate, so it'd be very easy for PLNR to find a losing move. Very easy to find some losing moves for black here. But for now, everything's very good. Pooh Bear, you're saying you would try taking here, taking the two rooks, because basically there's a very good chance that immediately afterwards black will hang this rook e8. Like maybe they'll play knight c2 or something. And then you can fully get back into that game. And since you're behind, you have to make some gambles sometimes. Maybe, right? Or at least you could consider some gambles like that when you're behind. Sort of allow something and hope that it pans out for you. Yeah, me, gefilte fish, I wouldn't go for queen a8 because it's kind of betting a lot on that back rank thing getting blundered. Whereas in my experience, if I just dodge around and do nothing for a really long time while down on material, a player at this level will get frustrated and not figure out how to fully beat me. So I'll basically, yeah, if I'm playing a position like this down two pieces, I'm going to be very reluctant to make any trades, even slightly favorable trades. You know, I'm going to need to be winning almost a piece of material to consider making some trades. Here's an interesting line from Alexander suggesting bishop g6, but instead we get rook b8, so that gets fancy. So I'm going to show you Alex's variation first. Takes with check, takes, and then suddenly it's an oopsie for black. The rook's hanging, and you haven't yet had time to recapture the piece. If you take the piece, you lose the rook. If you save the rook, the bishop gets away. Totally possible, Alexander. PLNR chose a different move. Rook b8, attacking that queen. She went to a7 to dodge the piece. Yeah, Hydra Peaker, I am tired. I'm always tired, pretty much. Pretty much. That's par for the course. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with retreating this bishop here, and if white takes, recapturing the bishop, leaving the rooks defending each other. Yeah, I'd been thinking about rook b8, Alexander, because I wasn't even sure how the queen avoids, like, escapes from here. I'd considered this move as well with this rook. Kind of disengaging from the e-file stuff, which could be good or bad for black, right? But I was thinking the queen doesn't really have much of anywhere to go. And, you know, queen d5, we get a queen trade, which is fairly desirable for black. So I'd looked at both rooks to b8. And this one, yeah, as you say, it makes sense because the rook gets off the diagonal of the bishop, so it's one less hanging piece for black to worry about. But still have to be careful. Okay, we got to move from PLNR. Bishop g6. Looks good. I don't see anything wrong with that. White trades. Now rook e1 check would be a huge blunder. Black has another move other than recapturing with one of these pieces. There's also knight f3 check. And when the king moves, you take the rook and leave the bishop on g6. That is one other big option for PLNR. I wonder if they're considering that or if they're just considering different recaptures. Okay, pretty insane details this one. After check, king here, you could play queen h2, not take the rook, not take the bishop, and white's basically checkmated. That's surprising. That's some calculation by surprise. But hg6, this is the simple, clean, you know, just if you just trade things and always recapture, the ship is headed in the right direction for PLNR. There's another trade. Come to Papa. Is knight f3 forced mate? Oh my gosh, against king g2, there's queen h2 to h3. Knight f3. So if king here, that is definitely checkmate, right? If king here, I'm just realizing there's check here, and that's checkmate. The queen and bishop cover the opposite color squares. So that really only leaves king f1, and then, yeah, this move looks like it creates checkmate pretty much. Oh, there's something, rook e3. Rook e3, that allows the king to escape. I mean, it doesn't resist for very long. You can also slow mate quite a bit with this queen c7 check. Kind of move people playing bullet all the time, hoping that the opponent will move their king and then they grab the queen. Here the queen's defended, so nothing can go wrong for black. So, but technically that isn't immediate mate in like 2 or 3 moves, but I mean, obviously she just has to come back into the hole to take care of it. So yeah, knight f3 check was pretty much checkmate. Pretty much. Okay, so that's the live position. Let's click our other game. Oh, we missed a few things. G4. Okay, takes, trade, takes, f5. The bishop, you see, now it's starting to do something. Gets kicked. H6. So apparently wanted some space, didn't want that coming up. Yeah, tucking the king. The king wants to be like on f6, so I don't think that I don't think this is the right direction for this king. Bishop d3, preparing g4 again. Rook g8, that'll prevent g4. Rook e1. Boom. Too bad the king went here instead of here, huh? Now suddenly we're caught really struggling to get any kind of defense going for this piece. Rook here. Bishop moves away. Very plausible was also rook takes pawn. Attacking the knight with the idea of taking this with check. You get a second pawn over here and the king kind of trapped on the back rank. It's going to be very, very good. But nothing wrong with bishop c2 either, because rook e6 is coming next. Let's say something more about the king h7 move, because I think that was kind of like the move that's letting white take over this endgame. I would recommend king, towards f6, which could go through g7 or f7, but presumably her match was probably, I think, worried about the move g4, and therefore not putting the king here. But sometimes you see a problem, and once you think about it, the truth is you just have to allow that problem. In this case, can you realistically play this endgame long term with your king on the h file? The answer is no, not really, not in a successful way. So that tells us that we actually have to go this way. Allow g4, play king f6, just let this happen, right? Takes and take with your knight or your pawn, but now your king's on a good square. And that's really important in this endgame. Essentially, it's necessary. King h7. White goes bishop d3. Rook to the e file. Pawn on e6 is doomed. Rook gets attacked. Now you either keep the rook centralized, stopping counterplay, or you go for more pawns, but you allow the opponent to maybe go rook e3. That's kind of the calculation here for Spear. So it's a pretty important move, right? Keep attacking the opponent's pawns, or just stabilize everything here, or grab the extra pawn over here instead of over here. Two different choices of which pawn you want. Very tough choice. I feel like I would go for the second pawn here. Is it because if I retreat, it's going to take a lot of work, or is it because I've spotted this king f2 idea and it really limits the counterplay? Like nothing more bad is happening to me. I think it's because of that. I think I'm only this confident because I've seen that I can actually stop the counterplay. If I couldn't keep this rook from getting loose, then it would be hard for me to make this move on intuition or judgment. I would strive to calculate how I'm controlling the counterplay. I would really try a lot. Yeah, for the moment, this knight is really bad, hampered by these pawns and this pawn. So knight c8, knight d6 long ago would have really changed the game. Okay, so this is a live position after king f7. So Spear is looking at the pawn on h6, looking at the pawn on b7. She's wondering what kind of counterplay does her mats have? How careful do you need to be? Or can you swing for the fences? Sorry, Alex, I didn't happen to catch your game today. Rook b6, the choice. All right. So once white captures this pawn, which it seems likely they will, black will have nothing but isolated pawns left. Right? 4 isolated pawns. Maybe there's some hope for black to play rook g5 and take that pawn off. Wouldn't like save the game, but it would be something to do. If black played rook g5, I would go back to here just to keep my pawn defended, I'm pretty sure, but we'll see. No, Dabo, I've barely swum at all. My ankle has been a big problem. So my swimming is terrible right now. I did go like once or twice. I had some pain in the ankle the whole time, so I didn't really kick with one of my legs, and I hadn't swum for 2 or 3 weeks, so my times were poor. And I cut it short because I didn't want to overdo things with the ankle. I mean, I know it like hurts a little bit to start using it again, so I have to get through a little pain maybe, but I was afraid of overdoing it at first. Same with the no, but it's like even dragging it hurts. Even when I don't kick, it hurts. Same thing with the weight room. I went to the weight room once, but it hurt quite a lot. I'm gonna get some more water, get a little refill here. All right, actually, the truth is that's not like the full story, Dabo, with the swimming. The fuller story is Hermat's still thinking here what to do. It's a precarious position for black. The knight's not doing much. It's hard for the rook to carry the fight on its own. Lots of isolated pawns. So there's another big element to it, Dabo, which is this. There's this coach champs competition this month, and I've been dedicating my time to that. I know I could, in my present shape, I could go to the gym and just do like a light swim and just let it hurt a little bit, right? But not like hurt a ton. And I should, so to speak. But I've been just like filling my schedule with lessons for coach champs. I haven't streamed them all this week. In fact, I've maybe streamed very few of them this week, but I have still been doing them. And there's one more week of that, and I kind of just somehow drifted into making an agreement with myself that there are finals this coming week. Next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are the actual tournaments, and I kind of told myself I can make it till then, and then put more time into rehabbing or rebuilding. So, rook e3 played. Dreaming of the second rank, and second best would be the first rank. And here, ideally, Spear saw this possibility coming and has some idea of how to control that rook. It's my first time hearing that, Jack. Very cool, Alexander. evaluation problems are very rare, right? Most problems are tactical puzzles. So if you put together some positions that, and it's very easy to pick your own evaluation puzzles. Tactical puzzles, it's harder to make tactical puzzles for yourself, right? Because you maybe have to sort of know if there is or isn't a tactic or something. I don't know, but I mean, I've got ways around that, but evaluation puzzles for sure. You take any position where you're like, I wonder what the evaluation is, and then you guess it, and then, you know, compare it. So, and then they're actually so rare. If you put together a good collection of them and you think, oh yeah, I've got a good collection of positions, either they're a good variety or here's like 7 different Carlsbad positions to compare with each other and say which ones are better. That could be a very valuable resource you're making for other people at the same time. All right. Hey, PLNR, let's see how your game finished. We were watching it. Okay, it looks like you won it. Let's see where it went from here. This is the last time we saw it. Rook d1. Going after the knight. But the knight can move with check. And then you've got it. Very good. Very good, PLNR. Excellent game. Bravo. Bravo. You can always check the replay because we saw basically the whole thing. Whoa, that's not the game we were watching. What just happened there? Jadoob and C Jr. That is another game from our tournament. Cool. This was the game we were watching a moment ago. Rook b7. Ooh. Allowing that counterplay. And apparently Hermatz didn't want to give this pawn on f5. Maybe Spear was right to want to go after that pawn because Black played king f6 to stop bishop f5. Wow. Is that like a helpmate, math nerd? Like you have to play a bad move for one side that allows the other side to checkmate? Concord saying maybe there's some chances for this king to get active as well here. Let's see if Spear can control the situation. White is up 2 pawns now, which is a good amount. But it's very delicate because Black's making this bid for activity. Right, there's a kind of puzzle where you have to say what moves could possibly have gotten you to the current position. I don't know the name of those like reverse puzzles, but those exist. They show you a position and say what moves could have led to that position. Okay, rook check, looking at more pawns. But now this king can get active as well. This is exactly what Concord feared. You know, king g5, defending this, going after this. Then the knight can get moving. It's usually en passant gefilte fish, that's true. Rook trade makes it much less scary now. Yeah, Hermatz should definitely not trade the rook here because Hermatz is down 2 pawns at the moment. So they need to keep things complicated. They're probably worried about these pawns, but if you go this way, White can get this one and you can get that one, and you keep the game going. And maybe even you can throw in this move rook e2 instead of taking this pawn right away. Get the rook active. And now you break up this beautiful pawn structure into pieces, and you're kind of limiting the opponent's king from getting out. So now it gets messy, and this is where, you know, your opponent may or may not have the technique to finish you off. Correct, gefilte fish. King F2 earlier was the best technique, the easiest, cleanest technique for white, was to chase this rook with the king from the beginning. And even here, if king to g5, you know, white should play king f2 to stop rook e2 before taking the pawn or doing whatever else white's going to end up doing. Okay, rook's traded, bishop d3. Does anyone here know this concept, b4? Can anyone explain to us what the point of the move b4 would have been for white right here? Right. B conquered is correct that this move here allows you to create a passed pawn by force if you calculate a couple moves ahead. The concept is largely called fixing a weakness, or in this case, a pawn. Right? So you prevent black from playing a5, and then on the next move you attack it. Here, we attack it, and it tries to run away. Now, because we have 4 pawns against 2, we can still probably find a breakthrough, right? And make a passed pawn. It's 4 against 2. But because there's now chinks in our pawn structure, right? It gets a little more complicated. So it's probably quite a bit cleaner to fix the pawn weakness on the light square and then play bishop d3. There's probably somebody else, Dabo, but I've never yet heard anyone else give that opinion, yeah. So far, you're the first person I've ever heard say that. Ooh, that's not good news for white, getting the king stuck on the side, huh? And the bishop's just defending the pawn. White's not having such an easy time, and now this knight can join the game in an exciting way for the first time. Here comes that knight. Huh. Let's see if it's still on chess.com since you're speaking of Silman. See, study lessons. It's hard to get to the library to look at what I want. Let's search for roots. Oh, they still have it. So Dabo, this is what I loved. Roots of Positional Understanding. I loved this course. I found it very difficult. So this one, I don't think you would find simplistic, Dabo. It's not exactly a book, but this course on chess.com, I really liked it. Yeah, that was great for me. Okay, knight f5, bishop f3 played. So black's going to want to defend this pawn with the knight. I anticipate it comes in here. He's so great. It makes it sound like the reason you forgot about him is that he's so great, which then doesn't really make sense. Yeah, sorry, Alexander. I had YouTube chat hidden for a second. But I think you heard. You got the right answer. As far as I know, fixing the weakness. Oh, yeah. Coldplay, such an amazing band. I forgot that they made music. Oh, yeah, Coldplay. I never listened to them. The music is just so good. All right. So what does white want to do now that their king's trapped on the side of the board? You got two beautiful pawns here, and what to do with them? What to do with them? Is Coldplay one of my favorite bands? No. C4, says Chess Zebra. That's a bold move, huh? Trying for a breakthrough in a passed pawn. Give me a break. Give me a passed pawn. That's possible. I guess the idea is to then do this and run with it. But black could go here, reestablish a blockade, and there goes one of your two pawns. You only got one step further. If it costs you one pawn for each step you go down the board, you'll be behind in material by the time you get down here. What is one of my favorite pans? I think the Beatles were really great. Okay, 93. This is a live position. What I was thinking was maybe white could play b4 and just hope that one or two of these pawns will get away from the knight, that they'll be far enough away. Yeah, Dabo, if you didn't like the Beatles and you didn't like Silman, I was going to ask you next, like, if you like chocolate or other of the most popular things in history. I could have said almost any band and somebody would have complained that it was a terrible choice. But I made the safest pick possible right there. It's like, I get enough flack. They posted this little clip from our podcast about Saudi Arabia and the Esports World Cup and Magnus. And there's people who are mad that I don't support, that I don't think Magnus should promote the Saudi royal family. They're like mad at me for having a pro-American bias. At the same time, there's other people mad at me for having negative things to say about the American presidents as well. There's people who are mad at me for not specifically calling out Israel when I said I wouldn't play in a tournament sponsored by the Saudi royal family or Putin, or I named some American president. I don't even know which one, but one of them. They said, but why didn't you call out Israel there? They're very mad at me for that. I was like, well, I also wouldn't play in a tournament sponsored by Netanyahu, but the guy was still mad at me because I hadn't listed him originally with the other three. There's someone else who's mad at me for listing Biden and Trump in the same sentence at one point. So today I will tell you a band I like is the Beatles. And I will take no more flack. You would have imagined I like Simon and Garfunkel more than the Beatles. No. Simon and Garfunkel are good. I like the album Graceland and the movie Graceland. But I think the Beatles contributed even more. I love the Beatles. They're not my absolute favorite band. They're just me avoiding your hate. Oh, I think I know what song you're thinking of, Filet Gefilte Fish. You're thinking, I'm going to Nashville. Nashville. Memphis, Tennessee. I'm going to Nashville. Oh, that was hard to do. Still no move from Spear. That's correct, Greg. Graceland was Simon without Garfunkel. That is true. I don't hate Garfunkel, but I did really like Graceland. I hating the Beatles, Sirawan, and ice cream. I don't know what a waxwing is, 11 years. Maybe it's something so horrible I shouldn't have read the word you typed on the internet without Googling it first, but I'm just going to say I don't know what a waxwing is. I like Bohemian Rhapsody. Maybe you spell Rhapsody differently than I do. Oh, they're birds. Exactly, Alexander Sue. I hear you like pancakes, so you hate waffles? I love that one, Alexander. And I'm not a meme lord, as everyone could attest to. Thanks for the raid, Elliot Alderson Chess. If I can figure out the spelling of your name, I'll give you a proper shout out here. Elliot _ 2 L's 1 T. Elliot Alderson. Oh, thanks, Pooh Bear. Saving me. Saving me. Saving you. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes. Great song. I like that album so much, Stamen, I could not say what my favorite song is on that album, actually. It would be very hard for me to say. What's the song? Joseph's face was black as night, the pale yellow moon shone in his eyes. That song's beautiful, right? Whew. I mean, it's hard to pick. B4. Oh, B4. That's the move I was thinking of. Do I get credit, Spear? You watched a video on blindfold chess. That's cool, Rubik's Cube. Glad that helped you. Glad you've gotten better at it. The junior rankings video is already out. That was pretty fast, right, Elliot Alderson? On October 1st, the official FIDE list for October came out, and we recorded that video on October 1st. And our editors got it up by the 3rd. That's like a very fast turnaround for us. Was it any good, the episode? You can tell me honestly if it wasn't. If it's not good, there will be like 20 people online telling me how bad it is anyway. You'll probably do it more kindly than they. I think the idea is you kind of run this pawn and the knight should have to scatter and go defend it, and maybe you'll even collect this pawn. I think that's what I like about b4 better than c4. I know somebody gave like a cool suggestion of c4, which was interesting. I think this is what I like better about b4 than c4. With c4, when the knight goes to defend your passer, you can no longer win that pawn on d5 because it's not hanging there anymore. With b4, if the knight chases down one of your pawns, right? You'll still get your pawn back on d5. And so you still have 2 extra pawns, making it easier to win this endgame, I think. I think that's one of the things I really like about b4 here. Yeah. Because it leaves this weakness for black. I mean, to essentially just lose at some point, right? What are they going to do other than lose this pawn? The Chess Engine Talks was my favorite one in the last couple months, Dabo. It's hard to agree with everything, right? Because we disagree with each other, Elliot. I think it would be healthy if normally you agree with me and rarely agree with Jesse. I think that would probably be healthiest. But obviously, yeah, you can't agree with everything. So anybody who watches the podcast in the hopes that they will agree with everything that gets said is going to be disappointed, because there's no way. I can't play with you right now, Jonathan. Hopefully another time. Oh, and all these moves just got played. There was a deep think from Hermots here, and then they decided to make this move, grab a pawn here, and now Spear's thinking, like, do I try to save one of these pawns? Do I take this pawn right away? My instinct is to run with the B pawn, but there might be other options too. Yeah, are you going to try that yourself, Dabo? I'm going to try it. I think I might do some match against Leela on stream at some point. Yeah, Alexander, I wish we had prepared a little bit longer and maybe drafted 3 girls instead of 2. But, you know, we made... I had so much going on with Coach Champs. Jesse and Kostya probably had their reasons as well. So anyway, we didn't have enough preparation to feel like we could really do a good job drafting 3 or 4 players, but at least it started, you know, and maybe we'll do some more research and expand the girls roster for next year. You should definitely root for Alice. I think she's really cool. Thank you so much, Elliot. Very kind of you, and very kind of you to rate us. Thank you so much. Yeah, just put on a lot of time per game, Dabo, and go for it, you know. You can experiment with what time control you want to try, but it depends how much time you have, Dabo. But for most people, if you play one classical game in a week and analyze it, that's a pretty good amount of work for 1 week, right? And if you're gonna really play a serious training game against Leela at a level of odds that it's an interesting game for you, then it stands to reason that the game is worth analyzing. That's where you're going to get better, is when you analyze it. Like even the Blitz games that I've played, the Blitz and Rapid games that I've played against Leela at piece odds, I went over them in some form to try and actually learn something from the games. Okay, B5 from Spear. Wow. Playing every single move the same as me. Right? In the sense that every single move, the same move that I would have wanted to play had I been her or whatever. You know, I mean, what I mean is we're agreeing on all the moves here. Pretty cool. It's a nice feeling. Yeah, Alexander, if we'd been forced, if we had to take 3 picks, we would have definitely had to, somebody would have picked up this Indian girl who gained 300 rating points last month, you know, and that might have been a bust because she might go back down 200 points next month, or she might be a GM in a year. So it would have been a wild pick. I would have had to have the time to go online and play through a bunch of her recent games to judge which direction I thought it was going to go. You're going to go for 3 games per week, Tom? Wow. Let me know how it goes. What kind of odds are you thinking of doing at Classical for yourself? Do you have an idea where to calibrate it? You might want to play a couple rapid games first and get a sense for the difficulty level and decide what is a good odds for you before you sit down for 3 or 4 hours. Right? And there goes the next pawn. Wow. And Spear takes it. Takes the long endgame of bishop versus knight. Huh. And straight into the next game. Whoa, no hesitation. 3 seconds later, e4 has been played. Wow. Yeah, you're thinking between knight and rook? Yeah. Makes sense. I think I should definitely be able to win at knight odds in Classical. But I'm still probably going to start at knight odds to make sure that I can actually win. And if I can win at knight odds, then I guess the next step would be 2 pawn odds. And I feel like I have almost no chance of winning that. But we'll see. That'll be a heavy struggle. That'll be an epic effort. Let's go check out a game from our 1600 plus group as well, right? We've been in the under 1600 up till now. In this tournament here, Alexander Sue, in general, people play a single game. But then every now and then you get somebody who wants to play a long game. And then another. And then another. Yeah. There's a few people who do it sometimes, Alexander. But the idea is to play one game. You know, my concept is that people can play one game, put a lot of effort and weight on it, you know, then reflect on it a little bit for the rest of the week. But some people are just like, you know, crazy fighters. And of course, people are all welcome to do what they want to do, right? Just because I have a concept doesn't mean that's what everybody's doing. Oh, I saw it. I saw it, Pooh Bear. I saw it. All right, let's get into this one. So this is removed username against B conquered. Knight, rook, and queen against knight, rook, and queen. With seemingly a better pawn structure for white. Critical factor, I assume B conquered's not listening. Critical factor, this rook on f7, which is both actively placed and precariously placed. All right. And it is removed username's turn. So white to play here. Right on. Alpha Wolf Tribe and Blib Up. Good choice, Wolf Tribe. Thank you for your generosity there. Yeah, it's insane, isn't it, Math Nerd? And I played it in 10 plus 5 and lost by a similar kind of score. Well, a mix of 5 plus 3 and 10 plus 5. And I got maybe 1 win and 1 draw in 15 or 16 games. But I was so close to winning in many of the games. If I just had a little more time, I feel like the score could flip. That's what I feel like. So I think I can beat it in Classical. But to be seen. To be seen. All right, so we got some suggestions for white to play in this position. One suggestion was queen d4, going after the knight. Another was queen d2, with the idea of queen h6. Then you'll be going after h7 and g7. I feel like a key move against both queen d4 and queen d2 is knight f5, trying to stop checkmate on g7 and deal with the knight on d6 and leave the rook dangly. right? Like here, knight f5 stops queen h6. And here, knight f5. And then if they take, you can take the queen. When they recapture, you get the rook. Knight f5 doesn't work, right? Maybe not. I guess to some extent white could just sit here. And if you ever trade the knight, then you get mated. So white could just move the queen off of the knight's attack. And now I'm threatening something like knight f5, king f7, queen g7, king e8, knight d6, or even just g4, something like that. It looks pretty powerful for white. And maybe I'm even threatening queen e6. Here we are. Queen d4 was played just now. I mean, it's very precarious, this rook. I personally have a clear instinct as to what should happen, so to speak. Like, if I were playing the game, I'd have, like, a pretty strong sense, like, I'm probably winning, or I'm probably losing, or it's probably equal. I'd have a very clear sense here. Let me just see what opening's being played here. King's Indian defense. This position looks very comfortable for black. D4 really helps. And now white looks good with the queenside majority and the knight on e8. Oof, 7th rank. Moving in. Queen e5 played. Okay, so this was the line that we looked at. Queen d4, queen e5. In theory, threatening knight takes knight, g4, and queen e6. 3 threats. Knights always defend the squares they vacate. Yeah. Good night, Alex. Queen d6 played. Wow. G4, yep. You want to disrupt the knight so it doesn't get to go to e7 if you're going to push this soon. And the knight will again be pretty bad here. Pretty bad, yeah. Like here, you could maybe go here, here, and here, and then the knight is boxed in like that. Knight h4. So how's that knight going to be saved? The knight's going to g6, sacking a pawn for a better route. But there is d7 here, isn't there? Hitting the rook, and then queen g5 on that square. White didn't do it. Now if you go here, black tries knight e7, I imagine. Oh, queen f4 check. So d7 is still just a total knockout here. Just queening that pawn immediately. Here's what I'd calculated, which is similar. d7, hitting the rook. So I force the rook to spend a move on moving, I guess. And then I take here and attack the two. Now d7 just going. That looks like the end. I think overall that black played too quickly in this game because it was such a complicated game and there were lots of things to think about, like in these positions here. You know, and some of these moves are being played in seconds in a classical game. You know, there's the question of how to get this knight into the game, which never got answered, and I don't know that it was an impossible question. Maybe rook d8 to counter the d file before white takes over. Again, this move was played in 1 second, so yeah. They had over an hour on the clock at that point, Scott. They still had like an hour and 12 minutes out of an hour and 30 at this point. But at this point, it's a little bit late to be thinking about the moves, right? Because it's pretty dead. White's thinking a long time. Is there something wrong with d7? Rook d8, you take it. Knight e7, you go queen f4. Long thing. I don't see any problem with d7. I don't see anything to slow white down there. b3? I haven't looked at b3. d7, b3, queens, rook takes, queen takes, b2, queen b6. Yeah. d7, h6, you just queen, I guess. Oh, it's definitely a pretty high-level game, 11 years. Queen b5 played. Maybe white didn't see queen f4 check, although, I mean, it's a very good player thinking quite a while. But we just have blind spots now and then. Right? There's a knight covering f4, and there's a pawn on this diagonal. So you can miss it, but the only way to stop that is to block the diagonal, right? And then this move wins. So it's just a matter of looking at all the forcing moves or whatever, as people say sometimes. Maybe h4, g5. Okay, h4 gets played. Well, threatening mate in 1. Black pretty much has to play h6. Not really anything else to try. Then maybe white will push h5. Knight's getting forced to worse and worse squares. Here's another game. 2 extra pawns for black. And this one hanging. So white's looking for kind of desperate counterplay. And when this pawn gets to a2, that's going to start really tying white down. But if black could double on the second rank, that might also restrain white's pieces. So it also looks like a very tough position for white right here. Knight f8. Check. Check. That's about to be mate. There's queen f6. There's king h4. Checkmate threatened. King joins the attack. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. Let's see what we can figure out here for this game. Well, you played very, very quickly Be Conquered in the middle game. So it stands to reason that you would miss things, right? Queen g5 Be Conquered. Queen g5, white can play knight takes f5. And against king f7, there's queen g7, king e8, knight d6, king d8, knight f7, winning the queen on g5. No. You do have gf5 as well. Yeah. Then white has various wins as well, like h4, queen g6, rook f6. The rook on b8 is hanging to the queen on e5. So you have to go queen e8. Then rook takes e6. You know, queen d8 or something. Rook back to e7. Queen f8, maybe. But, I mean, the position is brutal. Rook g7 check, queen g7, queen b8 check, king f7, queen takes b7 check, something like that. I don't know. It's pretty stuck. It's like queen and 5 pawns against queen and 1. I can take your b pawn, not trade the queen on g7. The second b pawn. And of course, I don't have to play rook g7. I could do queen e6 check, king h8, rook f7. And then when your queen moves, you know, queen e5 or queen f6 with mate. Long think here from checks, which is a good idea. Checks mate. Not yet clear what white's counterplay is, but the king is not very well guarded, and white's got heavy pieces, so black has to be pretty careful here. The most basic move to me would be a3, a2. The second most basic move would be queen c2, allowing rook d5. Maybe that's not basic. Maybe that's more like dumb. I suppose rook a to e8 is a plausible move as well, right? Just going for activity, right? Just going for activity. Should black play queen c5 here, maybe? Black just played a3. So let's take it back. Let's see about queen c5. Oh, I think part of your idea is if the king moves over to either square on the h file, you want to do this, right? That looks rough for white. So it would be king f1, huh? And now maybe rook c2. Maybe rook's double, but now their queen is tied to this checkmate, huh? So there's no centralizing. Looks pretty good. You know, can't say that looks bad. Okay, in the game we got a3. Does this give white any chance or hope here? I don't see anything immediate, but let's just think about it. Queen d6. You could try and play king g7 for black at some point, yeah. Concord, you're saying bring the rook to a4 at some point for black from this position? I mean, we won't... I don't think black's in danger of losing in the near future. But what makes you want to play rook a4? Like, I want to get the pawn to a2, so it's threatening to queen and starts to tie down white's rooks. Gives me combinations. Right? So that's a goal here. I want to take on c2 to be up another pawn and to tie white to defending g2. What makes you want to bring the rook here? Good morning, Sanyal. Hooray, it is the weekend. Rook a4, d4, queen c2. So you want to win this pawn without hanging that pawn, right? You don't want to let the white rook get active through the pawn. It's largely about the activity of white's heavy pieces, even more than just the pawn count, right? Like, you don't... Like, if white gets active, then who knows what could happen, right? Takes 2 pieces to checkmate the black king here with queens and rooks. And it can be hard to defend. Your queen c5 move looks pretty solid. But if we determine that white has no big threat here, then a3, a2 is... you know, a fully plausible plan as well for black. King h2 played. That kind of encourages king g7, I gotta say. Because, you know, we can still go for an attack with rook h8, queen c5, that kind of stuff. Maybe white can try and get away with queen d6, yeah. But if I go king here, it's probably not in time to go king g3 because of mate. So it'd have to be king here. And now luckily white's stopping queen c5, which would be forced mate. But there's a good chance that queen h4 is checkmate. Here, I know it's not all with check. Rook h1, you're not stupid. Rook h1 is not something that somebody stupid suggests. It's quite a fun idea. Idea here, 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 here is to make it all with check, right? So white has no time to respond to anything. But as Concord noticed themselves, there's queen h2. So it turns out, in this position, white has no check because of the rook. So if you just bring your queen over here, threatening this and this, that'll do it. The other move that almost wins but doesn't win for black here, but it's like Concord's suggestion of rook h1, this is a good pattern to be aware of, this move. This move will very often win in a position like this. You've got enough juice that all you need is to get your queen in with check. But it turns out here you do get checkmate and their queen. But here you can't shift the queen and double down through the H file because their queen's covering this. And I mean, you might still have a way to win, even down a rook here. This is such a plausible way to attack somebody. But, right, or maybe queen f3 conquered, which does allow a check, but maybe black's got a way out without, I don't know. But the simplest is really the rook's covering this. We just slide our queen over. I mean, there's nothing to... Sometimes it's good to try and force everything with check because it means you can't be overlooking anything your opponent does. Other times it's better not to sack your pieces. Just, you know, keep the whole board covered and then threaten an unstoppable mate in one even if it's not check. So King G7's been played, and whew, that's looking like a mating attack to me. I don't yet see any move that doesn't get checkmated. White tries rook e1. Oh my lord. So on queen d4, white's going to play king f1. And then against rook h1, king e2. Anyone in chat feel like they can confidently calculate a forced win for black here? It looks like the smackdown. It looks like the beatdown. Queen d4 played. King f1. Here b conquered suggested a beautiful, beautiful move, right? Queen e3. Trying to prevent the king from escaping by covering it with the queen so you can give checkmate. And whether or not white takes on e2, you still have checkmate. It's a beautiful move. Turns out black can also win with a move like rook d2 or rook c2. Just threatening rook h1. There's no moves for white to play. You know, something like here, trading queens. It turns out black has checkmate without the queens, even. So there's a couple moves here that win. Queen e3, rook d2, rook c2. 3 moves which I think lead to a quick checkmate right here. There's probably other moves that are quite powerful, like, you know, even rook e6. Is completely winning. So, yeah. Pretty much any rook move other than rook e5. Actually, even rook e5 is winning. Not very cleanly, but you still pick this up and win the rook ending. But, yeah, don't recommend that. That's the worst possible move here for black, rook e5, and it still wins, basically. So, we imagine that checkmate will find something here. Yeah, rook h1 is somehow not great after king e2. I agree. Rook d2. I looked at that too, Be Conquered, and I couldn't find one myself. This is an elegant little move, just stepping aside, eschewing violence by not capturing on c2. Just step aside, allowing the queen trade. I like it. I like it. All right. So, well played. Even time usage by the two players. They each spent about an hour on that one. 15 minutes of increment on top of the stuff here. Rook 8, which one is mate? Exactly, Slippery Mike. And now let's go check out an under 1600 game, maybe. If there are people still playing, if there's second games going on here. We got Sleepy Dreamer and Scry Top. They're still playing their first game. Wow. Okay, first I have to figure out which direction the pawns are going. Looks like Black's just played this, attacking White's rook. So White has rook versus bishop in this endgame, but not necessarily having an easy time of this endgame at all. Black's using this attack to try and win this pawn, and then this would be a very strong pawn for Black. Huh. White's king is oddly cut off. Even though White is the one with a rook, it's White's king that is cut off from the battle. Oh, maybe I see a way for White to win. Rook here, bishop here, and then rook here. If Black takes, we can take, push, queen, one move before the opponent. Oh, Slippery Mike said it too. So by attacking the bishop, we don't give Black time to take, and they need to take with the pawn and make a pass pawn to really beat us. But if we made them take with the king, this is also going to be a lot of work. Even though there isn't the immediate pass pawn to bother us, our king is still off to the side, and their king's better placed. So it's still not obvious how you win that, right? So to me, rook c7, going after the bishop, that's great. All right, good night, Alexander. It may not even be winning, right? Be Conquered? I mean, who knows? It probably is somehow, but in practice, maybe not, because, you know, do you or don't you find a win. All right, Sleepy Dreamer down to 4 minutes against Scry Top's 4 minutes. They do have the 30-second increment. But this is a very critical move, this next move here of this endgame, right? As we're saying, if White plays a random move, the win might disappear in one move right here. So it seems they have to find this rook c7, followed by bishop b6, continuing to chase the bishop with rook b7 or rook c6. White has to find that pretty much to win this game. Hey, Jamin Hot Dogs, it tries to match you up with the person closest to you in rating, as opposed to the person closest to you in points. So it'll try to put you with somebody with the same rating as you as much as possible. The longer it has to wait for someone to pair you with, the more it expands the range of ratings it's willing to pair you with, right? So I don't know what the numbers are, but just like the general idea is, like, let's say it at first wants to pair you with somebody within 100 points of you, right? If after a minute it doesn't find someone within 100 points of you, maybe it expands to someone within 200 points of you. If after 4 minutes it hasn't found someone, it expands to 300 or 400 points, that kind of a thing. I don't think sacking the rook is winning Be Conquered, no. I also considered rook a7, bishop a7, ed, and that was not winning. That one I calculated out. This one I calculated out. The white king's too badly placed. If you're 200, then it'll pair you with the lowest rated player it can find eventually, I guess, right? Okay, white found rook c7, bishop b6, rook c6. Wow. Beautiful. Critical. Sorry. Okay. That's really nice. That's really nice. Under the gun, right? 3-4 minutes left on the clock, and stopped and thought pretty hard and found the one clean way. Hey, Jay Sugi. I'm not really open to private coaching lessons at the moment. I mean, I'm doing a few coaching sessions. But I don't really have room for more right now. Quoi? Je sais pas compris. Okay, bonne nuit. How much would it be if I were available? Well, normally for a 1 hour lesson, I would prepare for 1 hour plus do the lesson for 1 hour. So it'd be 2 hours of work for me. And I would charge you 2 hours of whatever your hourly wage is at your job if you have one. And if you don't have one, it would be free. Oh man, we're getting the most critical variation. Beautiful. Beautiful play by these players. Taking it to the limit in this endgame. Exactly. I charge you what you charge your employer or whoever it is that pays you. Uh-oh. White may have just botched the final step, the queen versus pawn. It's still possible to win this endgame, but it's very, very hard now. And the last two moves White played showed that they don't know how to win this endgame because they just chased the black king here. You know, if they were going to win the endgame, the time to win it was right here. Queen h1, queen a1. Put your queen in front of the pawn. Game over. But now it would be a surprise if White could find the technique here. Boop. There goes the pawn. So now White's only hope is to stop this pawn long enough to get the king all the way down here. Yeah. Man, are you all like music historians? You just know historical culture. Yeah, I mean, the correct technique is to just keep threatening the pawn while approaching. And if the king ever steps in front of the pawn, then you can bring your king. So if the king steps in front, this king comes. If the king walks away, you attack the pawn from behind. They come back here. Eventually you check them in a situation like this, where you're close enough that you're attacking the pawn. If they step away, you take it, and if they step in front of it, your king comes. And then you repeat the whole thing. I don't know if white knows. I have a feeling they don't. But they've gotten this far now. Look at that. They're finding all the right moves somehow. Wow, Baymon and Spear have both played 2 games tonight. Bravo to them. And there's the king coming. Ay, ay, ay. I misjudged Sleepy Dreamer. Once it got critical again, they started finding the right moves. There's the B pawn. One little detail is that if king f4, you block your queen's checking square, and after king f1, you should play king f3, which white found, allowing them to queen. This is correct. Now white's hesitating on the final move here. This is a key technique, but it's weird to play this move quickly and then stop and think a long time here. What's going on? Found it. Wow. Found it. Lots of brilliant moves in that endgame by Sleepy Dreamer, actually. Pretty impressive. Some of those endgame skills on display. Let's see what other games are still going on here. We got a new game just started between Jason and Hobbits. Or Habits? Habits, perhaps. Oh, wow. Sleepy Dreamer's in here with us. So, truly, Sleepy Dreamer may have blundered into one final brilliancy in that game. From what they say, they thought they'd blundered, which means when they brought the king up, they may not have seen queening, and they may not have seen that they had checkmate and won. And here, they started sweating, and they managed to collect themselves and find this, making it all so brilliant. But that's kind of a mix of blunder and brilliancy, folks, right? When you play the right move, but you didn't see why, then it works out. So you get a lot of emotions when you play some moves like that in a chess game. That's where it gets pretty intense. So this looks like a Scandinavian defense, or center counter, as I grew up calling it. White gets a tempo on the queen, brings out a second knight, a6. Kind of a sad move, right? Not bringing out more pieces, just hoping to keep the queen safe from the white pieces coming around. And then white plays a nice move, d4 in the center with the pawn. Oh, bothers that queen some more. White knows what they're doing. They're doing some evil stuff here, this Jason character. Yeah, TR element. C6 is definitely a more common way to play the Scandinavian than A6. The lines where black puts the queen on D6 instead of A5, I think then A6 is actually quite common in contrast. But yeah, I'm not a big expert on the Scandinavian. Good point. B Conquered says black played E6 quickly, blocking this bishop. So maybe they like the idea of putting the bishop on this long diagonal here. That would make sense. I mean, the first thing to see is just, you know, do these players have a real passion and commitment to development, right? That's always going to be a question when you've got players at this rating level here, right? 300 versus 500. Are they going to be committed to bringing out their pieces, or are they going to forget about the pieces? And so far, I mean, white's got that passion for development, right? 4 pieces out. Habits plays the idea that Conquered was starting to wonder about, to maybe put the bishop here. White's got the center so far. Yeah, a pawn in the center, plus, you know, it's backed up by very centralized minor pieces as well. This is a very good position for white so far. Oh, Asher, you got a game in today. Nice. With the majestic waterfall. Whoa! Jason's cooking with fire using tactics. Finds B Conquered's move of knight takes B5. And pulls ahead on material here. I mean, provided that they then take the queen, you know. You don't count your material till it's hatched or whatever. It feels like white had seen the Scandinavian, aka center counter, before, right? From the way they set up that bishop on D2 pretty quickly and then exploited that attack. And the interesting thing is, you know, here white could play knight b5, introducing the attack, but black just plays queen b6, and then the knight's sort of here, and I don't know, it just kind of has to retreat, right? So white held back. They didn't just make a threat to make a threat, right? No pointless knight b5, knight d5, knight e4, nothing like that. They said, I'll just keep developing. But the moment black played b5, then they said, well, now there's a pawn on this square. They calculated a little bit, and then they went for it. So it really feels like they've seen some of this before, with the queen over on a5. The idea of putting the bishop d2 on this diagonal to free up the knight and to create some threats. Feels like white knew what they were doing. Now they get castled, and white has finished the opening, right? Because basically everything, well, because the minor pieces are developed, the king is placed. Now you still have to develop the rooks. Development's not finished, but developing the rooks is something that often doesn't happen until the middle game, just because rooks are more finicky. If you didn't have an open file, you sometimes have to really work to develop your rooks. And black, on the other hand, is still in the opening, because they've got 3 minor pieces here on the back rank. So white's got a big development lead. White is in the middle game. Black is still in the opening. That is tough. That is tough. White develops the queen while threatening the rook. That is what we call a free tempo, meaning a free unit of time. Black has to move the rook again to avoid queen takes rook, and then you get to continue your plans. Bonsoir, Elise. Very well played by white so far, Charlement. Yes, very well played so far. Oh, nice. Is it like a big tournament, like a full 9-round affair? And you touched a chessboard. I've got a chessboard right next to me here, at least, to pet today. Right, I can touch it, push the pawns. So that's feeling nice. GMs and stuff. Wow. Ooh, that is exciting, Scotty. Then felt tired in the morning. You felt tired at night, you felt tired in the morning. And you asked yourself, what am I doing? Why are endgames so hard? Yeah. Oh, new move just in. Jason goes b3, kicking that rook some more, looking to play either c4 or a4 probably to open up more space for white's rooks. I would think. You see that black rook on h8, it's pretty far from getting to the game. So while that rook's on h8, white has a clear incentive to arrange a pawn trade to open the game for white's rooks. And this pawn here is as good a pawn as any to try and achieve a trade on because it's the most advanced black pawn. If you wanted to trade this pawn, it'd be pretty hard to do. Oh la 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 la. The rook is not safe there. There's teachable moments in every game, Asher, for sure. Yeah, I mean, black was struggling. They didn't want to fully retreat. They were trying to keep fighting with the rook, right? Because you can see here, their instinct wasn't to just go home and save the piece. It was to keep fighting with the piece, you know? Look at this pawn. Look at this pawn. I'm a big rook. I'm fighting, you know? The problem with fighting with the big rook so early is you've got all these pieces that are worth less than it, so you don't actually want to trade for them. So anytime they attack you, you've got to move on. And black was just refusing to retreat, so they stayed forward attacking stuff, and white took it. So yeah, I think that's also a big piece of it, like Elise points out. It's actually a good point. It's not just that the rook is facing some cheaper pieces it doesn't want to trade with, it's that the rook is fighting mostly alone. White has a better coordination of their pieces than black has, so when the rook fights, you know, there's nobody to help the rook to back it up, to control squares, to defend it on, to put pressure on white's pawn or anything like that, right? So it just can't win a fight on its own like that. All right, Sanyal. I hope you get a great game or two in. If anybody's looking for a game in the over 1600 tournament, Sanyal has joined and is looking for an opponent or a game, especially anyone not in the US where it's not really late at night, anyone in Europe or Africa or Asia. Sleepy Dreamer, it will remain up for 1 or 2 months. on Twitch. All right, looking to get the rooks into the game. Jason's playing basically a perfect game so far. I mean, you know, to some extent, a perfect game kind of doesn't exist. Chess is so complicated, but it's pretty good. I mean, all the pieces coming out, lots of tactical opportunities seized. Yeah, I guess I'm just hesitant to use the word perfect, even though I'm the one who used it. But this is a great game from Jason so far. Okay, Habit's trying to get that development done. Bishop a6, bishop d6. Bishops come out in quick order. In a moment, the king will be tucked away, and the rook will be ready for action, too. If I were white, I'd be trying to, you know, make trades and break through in this whole attack over here, so the rook becomes strong. But I think black's going to succeed in evacuating the king here. I don't think all VODs get uploaded there, Scotty. There's just too many streams. I'm not sure exactly what does or doesn't get uploaded there. All right, we get a Tradovich there. And another. Beautiful. Rook breaking through, bishop coming in. Very nice position for white. Black pretty much has to trade this bishop and then castle. Then white can try and use the rooks together, or white could try and use these extra pawns on the queen side. All right, Sleepy Dreamer, that was your first classical game? Wow, and you went all the way down to 3 minutes on your clock. So you, in your very first game, you used all the time. That's pretty amazing. I mean, people rarely pace themselves in their first couple classical games, not to mention their very first one. That's cool. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it and saw the point of putting a lot of time and effort into a game like that. All right, Habit's got the 3 minor pieces organized. It's really important to get castled here. The king's a little bit open. It was possible to castle on this move, and the knight would have been protected. And then the king would be generally protected. Very, very important at this point. Yeah, but today you had, 3 times as much time as 15 plus 10, right? So, big step up, big change. Well done. Clearly well done. And in particular, there was a great sequence you found in the endgame with like rook c7 to c6 takes b6. Oh no, that you had the hallmarks of somebody who's got a fair amount of experience playing endgames, it seemed to me. some true skills in the endgame. Is there a special chance right here, Asher, for white? I don't see anything super special actually for white, despite the 2 rooks coming out. I don't see any real waiting to make incursions that mess black up, and I think black can castle next move. That said, one idea that occurs to me is to play c4, c5. The pawn gets closer to queening and takes away space from black's pieces. So I find that kind of appealing. That's one tempting idea. You're saying d5 right away. And if black takes with the knight, are you sacking? I was thinking of d5 as possible. When was it? A move ago? Let me see where I was thinking of d5. Maybe it was here. That doesn't make sense. Knight e5 played. Yeah, so that's looking for a trade, just simplifying the situation while white's ahead. Very reasonable move as well. Very reasonable. Chet Zebra likes this move, knight e5. I think it's a very, very reasonable and mature move as well. I'm looking for that trade. Black can't really avoid a trade too easily. They can't back down. The knight's protected. It's in the middle of the board nicely. When black trades, you have to move another piece. Oof, big threats are going to come in. Should black maybe have just castled and ignored this knight and allowed a trade, but then keep playing like that, maybe? Black gives white the trade that they were mainly thinking of, and then goes after trying to win this pawn. Now there's some crushing moves, harnessing the power of the rooks, because black delayed castling by one move too many. But does white find it all? Kind of unforced to trade. A little bit risky to trade, right? Slippery Mike, this d-file is a big asset for white. Oh, we've got a move already. And it was rook d1. Oh, that's a powerful move from Jason. Holy moly. Threatening queen takes knight. And if the knight takes on e5, checkmate. That's the power of the open file. Similarly, if black takes this pawn with the knight, defending that knight, white has 2 different tactically winning moves based on the fact that this knight is the only thing standing in the way of queen d8 mate. So white could take the knight for free. Black should not take the rook because of mate. But if they don't, of course, white just took a knight for free, which is helping. There's also this move, rook b8 checks. Similar idea. If the knight takes, mate is administered. And if the king moves, we pick up the rook. So rook d1's very powerful and more or less kills black. I don't personally see a way for black to soldier on after this, but maybe we can look a little harder and see if there might be anything. Threading that knight. The knight can't move because of mate, and nobody can defend the knight. Yeah, I think that's it.